At the very beginning of Paddington, we are taken deep into the thick jungles of darkest Peru, where an expedition team has arrived to discover animal species never seen before. Among them is a geographer named Montgomery, who suddenly comes across a very rare kind of bear, one that can walk, talk, and think like a human. Seeing such a unique creature, Montgomery decides to take a sample, even if it means killing the bear. But before he can do that, another bear appears and saves his life from a deadly scorpion. This unexpected act changes everything. The bears introduce Montgomery to their hidden jungle world, and over time, a strong friendship forms between them. Montgomery ends up living with the bears for several months. During this time, he teaches them human habits, manners, and ways of living. He even gives them human names, Lucy and Pastuzo. When it's finally time for him to return home, Montgomery leaves his hat behind as a memory, promising them that if they ever come to London, they would always be welcome. Many years later, the story shifts forward in time. We meet a young bear named Paddington, who lives peacefully with his uncle Pastuzo and Aunt Lucy, the same bears who once met the explorer. Because of their past, they've adopted many human-like habits. They absolutely love marmalade and spend their days collecting sour fruits and using machines to make it. They often talk about going to London, inspired by Montgomery's stories and promise. One day, while listening to Montgomery's radio show, a sudden earthquake strikes the jungle. Since their home is built in a tree, it becomes extremely dangerous. The family rushes to hide in a basement. Paddington manages to get inside with Aunt Lucy, but Uncle Pastuzo is left behind, and tragically, he doesn't survive. After his uncle's death, Paddington takes Montgomery's hat and sets off toward London with Aunt Lucy. When they reach the harbor, Lucy tells Paddington that he must travel to London alone. Paddington insists that she come with him, but Lucy gently explains that she's too old now and will stay at a home for retired bears. Paddington, however, still has his whole life ahead of him. His journey isn't over, it's just beginning. With a heavy heart, Paddington agrees and travels alone, eventually reaching London's railway station. Seeing the station for the first time completely overwhelms him. Remembering what his aunt told him, that humans take small animals into their homes and care for them, Paddington asks people around him to take him in, but no one listens. Ignored and confused, he finally sits down at the edge of the station, feeling lost and alone. That's when Henry passes by with his family. He warns his children not to look at the bear, assuming Paddington is trying to sell something. They walk past him without stopping, but Henry's wife Mary can't ignore what she sees, an orphaned bear sitting all alone. Despite Henry's objections, Mary brings Paddington home. Paddington is overjoyed to be inside a human house for the first time, but Henry makes it clear that this is only for one night. The next day, Paddington will be taken to an animal shelter. Hearing this, Paddington explains that if they can help him find the explorer who once lived in his jungle, he might finally have a real home, because that man promised his uncle a place in London. Henry is secretly relieved, thinking this will help him get rid of Paddington quickly. But there's one problem. Paddington only knows the explorer's name. Mary reassures him, saying that there aren't many explorers who traveled from London to Peru, so they'll find him soon. Mary then asks Paddington to freshen up in the bathroom. But Paddington has never used a bathroom before, and he's never lived in a human house either, so things don't exactly go smoothly. At the same time, Henry calls his insurance company, trying to increase his home insurance, convinced that Paddington's presence is about to cause some serious damage. On the other side, we see Paddington inside the bathroom, a place he has absolutely no idea how to use. Having never seen anything like it before, Paddington accidentally turns the entire bathroom into a disaster zone. Pipes burst, water spills everywhere, and soon the whole house is flooded. To prevent any more chaos, Paddington is sent to sleep in the storage room for the night. Alone in the storeroom, Paddington feels deeply sad. Missing his aunt, he writes her a letter, describing everyone in Henry's house. He explains that Henry works in finance, which is why he's convinced that Paddington's arrival is going to cause him a major financial loss. Meanwhile, Henry's wife Mary is busy sketching. Their daughter Judy is focused on her studies, but is extremely shy. She secretly likes a boy named Tony, yet she's too afraid to tell her family about it. Judy's brother Jonathan dreams of becoming an astronaut, so he's always experimenting with science, often ending up hurt in the process. And finally, there's Mrs. Bird, the owner of the house, who absolutely loves cleanliness and keeping everything in perfect order. Mary then visits Paddington and reassures him that they'll soon find the scientist who once visited Peru. Paddington shows her the hat and tells her it belonged to that very explorer who met his uncle. Seeing the hat, Mary realizes this could make things much easier. She explains that she has a friend who owns an antique shop, and he might recognize the hat and tell them exactly who it belongs to. After Mary leaves, Paddington climbs onto a wooden shelf and falls asleep because he's used to sleeping in trees. Elsewhere, we are introduced to Millicent, a woman with a disturbing obsession with capturing and stuffing animals. One of her servants tells her that he saw a strange animal at the harbor earlier, one that seemed to love marmalade. Hearing this, Millicent immediately asks if he knows where the creature is now. When he says no, she becomes furious. It's revealed that Millicent is the daughter of Montgomery, the same explorer who once met Paddington's aunt and uncle. Montgomery could have brought back a sample of those bears and become rich and famous, but he chose to protect them instead. Because of that decision, Millicent grew up in poverty, and she now hates those bears. Her goal is to hunt them down and kill them. The next morning, Paddington wakes up and once again manages to cause chaos throughout the house. Later, when Henry steps outside with his family and Paddington, their neighbor Curry complains about all the noise coming from the house lately. Henry explains that they have a new family member and introduces Curry to Paddington. Soon after, Mary takes Paddington to visit her friend at the antique shop. The journey isn't easy for Paddington, and he struggles along the way. While Mary's friend is examining the hat, a man suddenly enters the shop and drops his wallet. Paddington quickly picks it up and runs after him to return it. The man panics, assumes Paddington is dangerous, and starts running away. Paddington eventually catches him, only to realize the wallet doesn't belong to him at all. The man is actually a thief who steals wallets from others. The police arrive and arrest the criminal, and everyone praises Paddington for his honesty and bravery. Mary's friend then reveals that the hat isn't ordinary at all. It was made exclusively for members of the Explorers Guild. He suggests that if Paddington visits the guild, he might finally discover who the hat truly belongs to. Later, we see Millicent knocking out railway station guards to track down the taxi number that brought Paddington into the city. Back at home, Henry is now convinced that Paddington is too much trouble and doesn't want him staying in the house anymore, but Jonathan and Judy have grown very attached to Paddington. They start taking care of him and protecting him like family. Seeing how much his children care about Paddington softens Henry's heart. When Jonathan and Judy insist that Paddington should not be handed over to the police, Henry finally agrees. After this, we see Paddington's enemy, Millicent, interrogating the taxi driver who dropped Paddington at the railway station. When the driver refuses to tell her anything, Millicent begins to torture him. Terrified, the driver finally gives up Paddington's location, leading Millicent straight to Henry's neighborhood. Outside Henry's house, Millicent runs into Henry's neighbor Curry. Without realizing the danger, Curry casually tells her everything he knows about Paddington. Soon after, we see Henry and Paddington arrive at the Geographers Guild library to search for the explorer who once traveled to Peru, but the librarian refuses to help them. With no other choice, Henry and Paddington disguise themselves and sneak inside the library, secretly searching for records of explorers who went to Peru. The library manager starts to grow suspicious of Henry and begins questioning him. While the manager keeps Henry distracted, Paddington quickly gathers information about the explorers and even finds a mysterious CD. Henry somehow manages to escape the manager and reunites with Paddington, but while rushing out, Paddington's sandwich accidentally gets stuck inside one of the library machines, causing the entire system to explode. Despite the chaos, Henry and Paddington narrowly escape. Meanwhile, Millicent arrives at Henry's house with Curry. She starts manipulating him, filling his mind with fear. She tells Curry that bears are extremely dangerous and warns him that soon the entire neighborhood will be overrun with bears. According to her, living there would become impossible. She claims she can send Paddington somewhere he'll never return from, but for that she needs Curry's help. Since she can't come around too often without raising suspicion, she asks Curry to spy on Paddington and inform her whenever the bear is alone. Scared and convinced, Curry agrees to help her. Back at Henry's house, the family watches the CD they found at the library. The video turns out to be footage recorded by Montgomery during his visit to Peru, when he met Paddington's aunt and uncle. From the video, they finally learn the explorer's full name, Montgomery. As time passes, everyone in the house grows closer to Paddington. He slowly becomes part of the family. But one day, when everyone leaves the house for work and school, Paddington is left home alone. Seeing this, Curry immediately calls Millicent and tells her everything. Millicent is thrilled. She quickly arrives at Curry's house, and together they begin planning how to capture Paddington. Inside the house, Paddington is quietly reading a book. When he accidentally tears a page, he tries to fix it with tape, but ends up getting completely stuck himself. At that moment, Millicent sneaks in, hanging from the roof. She attempts to knock Paddington unconscious and kidnap him, but the plan fails. During the struggle, a fire breaks out in the house. Panicking, Millicent escapes before anyone can see her. When Henry and his family return home and see the fire damage, they're horrified. They immediately assume Paddington caused the disaster. Angry and frightened, they confront him. That night, Henry tells Mary that he can't keep Paddington in the house anymore. It's too dangerous for their children. Mary sadly agrees and says that the next day, they'll take Paddington to the police. Paddington overhears everything through the air vent. Heartbroken, he realizes he's no longer welcome. Without saying goodbye, Paddington quietly leaves the house in the middle of the night, completely alone. The next morning, everyone realizes that Paddington has left the house. The entire family is heartbroken. Seeing them upset, Henry coldly says, "Why are you all so sad? This was never his home anyway." Hearing this, everyone gets angry at Henry and walks away. Mrs. Bird then comes to Henry and tells him something important. She says that he may not understand it yet, but this family needs that bear just as much as the bear needs this family. After Paddington leaves, the house feels empty, and the entire family slowly sinks into sadness. Meanwhile, Paddington is wandering all over the city, desperately searching for Montgomery. After a long struggle, he finally finds the address of Montgomery's house. But when he goes inside, he doesn't find Montgomery. Instead, he finds Millicent. Montgomery had passed away years ago. Seeing Paddington, Millicent is thrilled. Her prey has walked straight into her trap. Millicent manipulates Paddington with her words and convinces him to come along with her. Just then, Curry arrives and sees Millicent taking Paddington away. Realizing something is wrong, Curry immediately informs Henry. Without wasting a second, Henry rushes out with his entire family to save Paddington. Millicent takes Paddington to a museum, where she finally reveals the truth. She explains that years ago, when a group of explorers went searching for undiscovered creatures, her father was part of that expedition. When the explorers returned, each of them brought back rare specimens, becoming rich and famous. But when her father met Paddington's aunt and uncle, he refused to kill them. He wanted to protect them from the world. Because of that decision, Montgomery was expelled from the Explorers Guild, and instead of fame and wealth, their family lived in poverty. Millicent blames the bears for ruining her life. She declares that Paddington will now be locked away like the rest of the animals, as nothing more than a specimen. Terrified, Paddington tries to escape, but Millicent injects him with a sedative and traps him inside a glass cell. Soon, Henry and his family arrive at the museum, but the doors are locked from the inside. Judy comes up with a plan. They can enter through the zip line above the building. Everyone agrees. At the same time, Mrs. Bird distracts the museum guard, keeping him busy so he doesn't notice anything. Henry and his family manage to reach the museum's power control room, where Jonathan cuts the electricity. As the lights go out, Millicent heads toward the control room to restore the power. That's when Henry sneaks in through a window and reaches Paddington, telling him to escape. When Millicent turns the power back on, she notices footprints on the floor and realizes someone has come to rescue Paddington. Furious, she chases after him. Paddington runs for his life, making his way to the museum's rooftop. Millicent catches up and tries to kill him, but at that moment, Henry and his family arrive and stand in front of Paddington to protect him. Paddington tells them they don't need to do this for him. Then, using his quick thinking, he pulls out a marmalade sandwich from his hat and throws it at Millicent. The pigeons attack her instantly, leaving her hanging from the rooftop, and Paddington's life is saved. From that day on, Paddington lives happily with Henry and his family, now truly a part of them. He writes a letter to Aunt Lucy, telling her everything. She's overjoyed knowing that Paddington has finally found a real family. As for Millicent, she is punished for capturing and killing animals and is sentenced to clean cages at the zoo. So if this story made you feel something, don't walk away just yet. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and stay with us, because the next part is where Paddington's story becomes unforgettable. See you in the next one.